Heavy metals are the rulers of life on planet Earth. Toxic heavy metals get into people's brains, and then metals speak for the person. I know I've said that before, right? You may have heard that. Metals talk for the person. Metals can make us highly emotional, highly sensitive. Metals can make us so depressed, suicidal. That's what metals can do. No one would ever know. No one would ever know. You're living your life, you're going through life, and you're suicidal. You're going through life and you're depressed. You're going through life and you got high anxiety and panic and chaos. You feel like it's happening internally. And you've been to every doctor and every psychiatrist and every therapist, and you've been here, you've been there. Years are going by and you're just, somebody told you you're up and down, you're bipolar, so now you're up, you're down, you're all over the place. Another person said you got depersonalization. That's what those symptoms are, is depersonalization. Another person's like, oh, you got OCD. Another person's like, you got Tourette's. Metals run the gamut in our brain. They take over our brain and then they change things in our brain. Metals can do this. They are the rulers here on planet Earth. They truly are. People don't realize this, and hopefully someday they do. A lot of people have mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic, aluminum, nickel, copper. The list goes on. What you'll find out there is there's a trendy thing where copper is good for you, they say. That's not me saying that, but copper is good for you. We're missing copper. We don't have enough copper. You can drink out of copper, things and thermoses and mugs and all these different stuff. And people think that that's a good thing. They think, well, in ancient times, they had copper, and copper held the water, and people used it as an antimicrobial. But they also got copper poisoning, which created madness. That's a thing that people don't realize. So the exposure to copper is so great. So I want to hit that right away because I know so many people are like, you need copper. You need copper. Zinc gets rid of your copper. You need copper. This guy over here says zinc gets rid of copper. You hear it all the time out there. Have you guys heard that? What people don't realize is we're inundated with copper. First of all, copper is high in all the fruits and vegetables and herbs and spices. Copper is in everything. It's in meat. It's in chicken. Copper is in every vegetable. Copper is in avocados. Avocados are high in copper. Copper is in everything. And there's two forms of copper that are in everything. There's the natural trace mineral of copper that's in the earth. And then there's the industrialized copper that's in the earth. Two kinds of copper is in food. We have so much access to copper, we are not copper deficient. We are far from it. We are over inundated with copper. We have too much copper and it wreaks havoc in us. It's one of the toxic heavy metals. Copper. So many people have mercury in them, but it's passed on through generation to generation to generation. We get our mercury from our parents. Parents get our mercury from their parents. Their parents get the mercury from their parents. It goes on and on and on, back. You can go 1,000 years, you can go 2,000 years, you can go 3,000 years, and that mercury it just basically transforms itself back into our own body. It becomes something in our own body passed along from generations ago and generations ago, and we end up with mercury. Lots of toxic heavy metals we can pass on generation, but mercury's a big one. Mercury, we really pass that one on generation after generation. And that mercury can sit inside our brain and it can be thousands of years old. You can have mercury inside your brain that is 1,000 years old. Like, where did it come from? What's going on? Passed from generation to generation. That's the kind of metals that are stored inside of us. But I don't have any metals. What the heck? Metals are not my problem. I got a little depression. I got a little anxiety. I got a little OCD. I got a little depersonalization. I got a little ups and downs. I got sadness. That's mystery. Mystery sadness. I can't find peace in my mind. I can't sleep. I can't stop these thoughts. I got OCD that's driving me crazy. I got all these different things going on. Metal, and metals. We're going to go into a little detail on metals. I'm also making the heavy metal detox today, so HMDS, medical medium heavy metal detox smoothie. What you see in front of me really quick, I'll give you an introduction if you guys are interested. You see the wild blueberry right here. Yes, the wild blueberry. Here it is. That's it. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. You see some cilantro right here. Really fresh green cilantro. You see some oranges. You see some dulse. You see some spirulina, barley grass. You see some bananas and so forth. A little coconut water too in the glass. I might do something with that. We got the blender. So we're making the heavy metal detox smoothie. How many of you guys are on the HMDS? I know a lot of you guys are. A lot of you guys are. So let's get into it a little bit. Okay? All right. Alloys. So what happens in our brain is we get metals and they mix. They mix. We get a little bit of copper, aluminum, mercury in our brain, and then they blend together. How do they do that? They forge into an alloy through brain heat. If you're upset, your brain heats up. You get emotional, your brain heats up. If you're exercising and you're exercising and exercising and you're working out, your brain heats up. If you're experiencing immense joy, your brain heats up. If you're experiencing immense pain and suffering, your brain heats up. If you're actually challenged emotionally and you are under stress and you are struggling emotionally, your brain heats up. And when our brain heats up, the metals inside our brain can get hot. They can get hot. And they do. The electricity inside our brain, electrical impulses that are going round and around and around and around, right? In our brain, those electrical impulses swimming around that electrical grid. As that electrical grid is going, getting hotter and hotter and hotter, any little bit of metal that's sitting anywhere in any neuron, any glial cell anywhere in the brain gets hot. And mercury will snuggle next to aluminum. Aluminum will snuggle next to copper. Copper will snuggle next to lead, and so forth. And these metals sit inside of our brain, and then we have emotional experiences. Under stress, relationship breakup. Something happens. Somebody betrays you. Maybe somebody cheated on you. Maybe a friend did something. Maybe a coworker did something. Maybe life is just unfair. Maybe somebody else did something. Whatever happened, we have gone under some kind of emotional struggle and some kind of emotional situation. Our brain heats up, and then any kind of metal inside of our brain forges and binds into each other and becomes an alloy. I call it the alloy brain. Normally, the viruses that are in our body that are responsible for autoimmune love metals. I always say to people all these years, we can get rid of our viruses, work on that, but we can also get rid of our metals and work on that. The sicker people and the sickest people got the viruses, the pathogens, right? And they got the metals. The sickest people have the viral pathogens and the metals. People with ALS, multiple sclerosis, neurological problems, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, or just CFS, bad fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, all of it, pathogens and metals. People who actually have more metal suffer more. People who have more pathogens suffer more. But the combination is really hard. So many people live a miserable life. They struggle and they suffer because they have both pathogens and metals. They have the combination. So what I like to do is I like to get the metals out. So let's talk about that a little bit. Why are so many people healing in the medical medium community, the largest community in health worldwide by far, and the largest community in health that actually has the most people healing worldwide, that came to this community devastatingly sick, chronically sick, terrifyingly sick? The sickest people come to the medical medium information. The sickest people out there in the world come to medical medium information. So you have to think about this, okay? I mean, we have some people that didn't come here that sick. We do have that. But if you look out there and you see what's going on out there, you'll see this person, this trainer has this person has that out there, this doctor has this out there, this practitioner has this out there, but they don't have the sickest people on the planet coming to them. And the medical meme information is there for the sickest people. And the sickest people are high in metal and they're high in pathogens, and that's just how it works. And a host of other things that medical meme information talks about, right? A whole bunch of that stuff. Why does the HMDS, why does the heavy metal detox smoothie work? Why does the heavy metal detox work? Why? What I mean by work, meaning you start getting rid of the depression, you start getting rid of the OCD, you start getting rid of the anxiety, you start feeling better, your CFS starts to calm down, your fibro starts to drop, your neurological Lyme starts to improve, your MS starts to improve and heal. Why? And many other symptoms too, including eczema, psoriasis, severe dermatitis, all these different things, rosacea. Why does it get better? Because when you're removing the metals, you're taking one of the most potent foods there are for the bugs away. You're taking the most potent foods for the bugs. You're removing those foods away from the bugs. Think about that. So as you remove metals, you're removing the very food from the Epstein-Barr, the HHV6, the HHV7, the HHV10 through 16, the HSV1, HSV2, cytovirus, right? Cytomegalovirus. You're removing all of the food from that bug, from those bugs. The shingles viruses. And then once you remove that food, the metal, then that virus and that pathogen becomes less aggressive. It becomes more docile. It weakens. And you start to heal. Someone comes to me and they say, W, what should I start with first? What should I do? I'm sick. I've had this. I've been to this many doctors. What do I do? I'll be like, did you start with the heavy metal detox? Did you work on getting the metals out? Did you start with some of the antiviral protocols? What are you doing? And then if they do the heavy metal detox, what happens is you start getting those metals out of your body. They come out of your liver and your brain, and then something changes. All of a sudden, you're starving the pathogens that are keeping you down. Because this is how it works, okay? A pathogen will feed on metal. And when a pathogen feeds on metal, right? So you got the pathogens in you. Everybody's got the pathogens in them. That's right. You better believe they do. Fever blister, anybody? Cold sores, anybody? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I get cold sores all the time. And my sister gets cold sores all the time. And my mom got cold sores for years. We got a family of cold sores. That's what we have. Fever blisters, HSV1, right? So you got the cold sore virus, okay? Yeah, I had mono before. Yeah, that's Epstein-Barr. You've had mono before. Exactly. And then you got all these pathogens right here, right? Could put happy faces on them because these pathogens are really happy because they're eating metal. And then all of a sudden, we get exposed to toxic heavy metals in so many different various ways. Just the simplest ways. Every time to this day I hear about somebody using an alkaline ionizer water machine, and I don't care which brand it is, every time I see that I'm like, oh yeah, you give it 10 years. You give it 10 years drinking that water. Because those plates will just blow up in there, and they'll just corrode, and the metal that will be going into your body from those machines is just unbelievable. Or if you're somebody that's drinking out of the copper thermoses and the copper mugs and the whole bit because you think that's healthy. Or you're somebody that's exposed to aluminum foil. Or you have metals in you already that are percolating. And we're going to go into that a little bit. So metals. Metals enter into our body so many different various ways. They come on in. And when the metals come on in, guess what? They don't come out. Metals go in and never come out. Metals go in and never come out. Metals arrive and they never leave. They never leave. They go in and they enter the organs is what they do. But we got pathogens in us, and when we have pathogens in us, the pathogens love to eat and gobble up the metal. Copper, mercury, pathogens eat. And when they eat, they shit. That's what happens. Why are we sick? MM info right here. Mind-blowing information from SOC. Mind-blowing. Pathogens feed off of the metals that come in. And when pathogens feed off the metals, right? They then shit. There you go. They poop. Excrement. Right out of them. There you go. Okay? Pathogens feed off of the metal and then release the metal, and then the metal becomes a neurotoxin. It becomes a neurotoxin. And someone down there, I saw a comment saying, "Are you grumpy, EW?" Am I grumpy? It's hard to stay super happy when so many people do things that just aren't good for them out there. You should see it out there. You guys know a lot of people do a lot of things that aren't good for them. All right. So I just wanted to run that by you a little bit. So what we do is we have these Epstein-Barrs, we have these Shingles viruses, we have these HHV6s. Yeah. We have the simplexes in us. And what happens, and then we collect more. We go out and collect more. It's like, sure, I will gladly collect another virus from you. Definitely. Okay, let me go here and collect another one. They're easy to collect these days. It's very easy to get viruses and pathogens. Very easy. There we go. What people don't realize with metals, okay, is they forge. Okay? So we got mercury. We got copper. Like my handwriting is not so great. Well, what are you going to do? And so mercury and copper love to snuggle. They love to forge. They find their way to each other is what they do. They find a way to each other. They're attracted to each other inside the body. Mercury and copper. Do you ever have a filling removed? No, you haven't, right? Not to worry then. Your family members might have. Your parents and their parents might have. Your grandparents might have had a whole bunch of mercury fillings put in. And then their grandparents had a whole bunch of mercury fillings put in. And it could even go further back than that with mercury fillings put in. And those mercury fillings, I've seen people like, I never had a mercury filling because I'm a younger person and I never had that. They didn't offer it. They offered a different composite. I say, don't worry. You got plenty in you from your grandparents and their parents, and you have plenty of mercury in you. It goes a long way, a long way. Copper and mercury combine, and when we get upset and we get emotional and something jacks us up and we're just like, we're lit and we're on fire for some reason, brain heat occurs. All this brain heat occurs, right? And when that brain heat occurs, that electricity starts to cook metals. Electricity in our brain hits that metal like no other, and then the forging process happens. You got a little copper inside your brain. You got a little mercury inside your brain. Now you're upset. Something gets you angry. Something gets you upset. I'm writing really sloppy tonight. Something gets you upset. I'm really angry. Maybe somebody just pissed you off. And then brain heat occurred, and then the copper and the mercury start to forge together from that heat. It takes time, but it happens. And then it becomes one. And now what you have right here, after they forge, is an alloy. Now the copper and the mercury are now one. That makes things worse. And then a bug comes along. Little virus. Awakens. Your immune system is low. Your old monovirus starts to come out. The old EBV, Epstein-Barr, starts to come out. And what does it do? It stumbles across an alloy, a combination of copper and mercury, and it gobbles it up. What a mess on this board. And when it gobbles it up, it goes to the bathroom. And when that Epstein-Barr goes to the bathroom, That's neurotoxin right there. Neurotoxin. That neurotoxin can create anything. Anything. Vagus nerve issues, tightness of the chest, tightness of the throat, vibrations, all kinds of different stuff going on. Nerve sensations, tics and spasms and aches and pains and everything else. And fatigue. Yeah, fatigue. Brain fog. All that neurotoxin pouring out of that Epstein-Barr virus that just had that copper and mercury. It's releasing that neurotoxin into your bloodstream, and when it releases it into your bloodstream, it starts to circulate, float around, gets to the brain, gets to the nervous system, hits the vagus nerve, starts to weaken the vagus nerve, hits the cranial nerves, and gets us sick. And now we don't know what's wrong, where, what, how. We have no idea. We're going everywhere. We're looking for help. We're doing castor oil packs. We're doing cod liver oil. We're doing sodium bicarbonate. We're trying to drink alkaline water. We're just looking. We're doing keto. We're doing blood. We're doing this. We're doing you name it. We're doing diatomaceous earth particles, which I strongly advise to my family and my friends never to do. Because it lowers the immune system. And then we're looking for answers and all kinds of stuff. You guys, I just saw somebody ask. I shall deliver. The Brain Saver book, right here. That's the book I'm in right now. Check it out. Get it free at the library if you can. Or just go to Amazon.com. So, let's go into metals a little bit more. I would love to talk a little bit about it. Okay. Beyond the damage that toxic metals themselves can do, there's the truth that they act as viral fuel. So you got to understand something. It's critical to get metals out. Critical. Somebody may not have a lot of viral issues or viral load. They might not have a low-grade viral infection. They might not have a high-grade viral infection. They may not have a big viral load, but they got a lot of metals. And then all of a sudden, one day happens where they pick up a virus and it all just explodes on them. I was healthy. I was doing good. I don't understand. And they're backtracking in their mind. I remember when I was healthy, I was doing fine. And then they're doing their affirmations and they're talking to themselves and then they're talking to their practitioners and their doctors and they're like, you don't understand. I was just fine the other week. And now I'm sick. I was just fine months ago. A year ago, I was fine. I was doing good. And now I'm sick. Why? Nobody knows it. They were loaded with metals and then something happened. Either they contracted a virus or they just had a virus come out of dormancy because their immune system got lowered for some reason or another. And the virus came out and it gobbled up the metals and boom, overnight they had the worst sensations and the worst symptoms, the brain fog and the aches and pains and the tingles and numbness and the neurological sensations and the trigeminal neuralgia and so much more. And they're struggling because it was the perfect recipe, the perfect storm. It was the bug eating the metals at just the right time. And that's it. They went down. And now they're living a life where it's all about their health and only about their health. And they just weren't there before. They don't know what that's like and they never experienced that before. I want to read a little bit something to you real quick, if that's okay. If you guys will let me do that. Okay, melting down. When our brains get hot and there's metal involved, because that's what happens, we're loaded with all these metals and it becomes an alloy, right? The toxic heavy metal particles break down. The metals melt. They actually melt inside our brain. Toxic heavy metals in the brain get wear and tear. When electricity currents are entering them, they start to change. Did you ever notice somebody changing? Did you ever see somebody change? Like you don't even know who they are. Like, I don't even know who you are, man. Like, I've known you for years, but something's just changing about you. What is it? Like, I don't even, like, who are you? Who are you? Now, this you could see in somebody that has Alzheimer's, right? This you can see with somebody who has dementia. You could really see it then because it's just so obvious. And you're just like, whoa, something's wrong. And that's from toxic heavy metals. And that's original medical meme information. But it's from toxic heavy metals causing the Alzheimer's, right? And dementia. But what happens is if you're not diagnosed with Alzheimer's and it's not so apparent and it's not so visible and it's not on that scale at all, it's not about losing your memory, it's not about going into some kind of mania, it's not about any of that. It's just about everyday living in life, and you're just like, why is that? What? That person's changing. What is it about them? A lot of times that's metals that have melted, and they have melted together and they're forging and they're changing. And that's what that is. Metals that have forged together, their shapes change. So metals that enter our body or have been in our body since we were born end up changing over time. Corrosion can occur as well. The metals corrode. So I want to show you that really quick. We're going to make the heavy metal detox smoothie. I love that. And we're talking about heavy metal detox. I want to talk about like blood testing for metals. I want to talk about urine samples for metals, right? All right. Because that's important too. The metal goes in. The metal particles go in. Okay? They go in a certain shape and size. Industrial metals that go into us all the time in so many various ways. Did you have fast food? Metals were in it. That's just one thing. But what happens is metals tend to melt as we have electricity running through our brain, and electrical impulses are hitting the metal particles, and they tend to melt. When they melt, they change shape, and all of a sudden they have a different shape to them. They're not the same shape anymore. They came in kind of off shape in a different way, but now they've changed. All the shapes have changed. And when that does happen, we change. When the shape of the metal changes that has entered our body because it's melting, we change. You can't really tell at first with a lot of people, but then you can tell later. Or if someone hasn't seen somebody in a long time and then they see them and they see how different they are in different various ways, there's a changing that occurred. All right, so I want to look a little more into this. Another reason brain conditions worsen with time is that more toxic heavy metals continue to collect. And this is the next part I want to say right here. So you got these metals right there in you, and then more metals come in every day, every year, and they come in and they find their way and they collect. They bind on to the metals that are already in you. Deposits in the brain can get bigger. So as more metals stream in like this, they find the metal deposits and then they actually enlarge. The metal starts to accumulate. More metal occurs and grows because the more metal going into the body, actually it goes and finds the other metal in your body. They both join hands, and now you're getting metal deposits. And if somebody has a big metal deposit, if someone has a really big one, you better believe it. So many people do. They got big metal deposits. Seizures. Big metal deposits. Okay? So if someone has a big deposit in their brain, or two big deposits in their brain, okay? And maybe a smaller one, and more metals are coming in, they find these big deposits. These deposits get bigger. 10 years down the road, the deposit's even bigger. 20 years, it's even bigger. You're 50 years old now, the deposits are bigger because you're not getting metals out. You're not taking care of yourself on that level. Nobody's teaching you. Nobody knows. Or if you hear about metals now, you'll be like, let me try zeolite. It doesn't work. Or let me try this. It doesn't work. Or let me try something else. It doesn't work. You don't get the metals out. It's smoke and mirrors. It's critical. Metals come out. There's no games. No time for games. No time for BS. The metals have to come out. Can't do make-believe crap where you all of a sudden this is good for metals, somebody says, and this is good for metals, and somebody says out there, because it's like an industry. It's everybody's just eating each other alive out there to try to make a buck, right? But we got to take it serious with the chronically ill, because there ain't no time left for a lot of people who are sick, because they've been sick for so long. They have to get the stuff out of their system so they can live their life. The more metal that goes in us, it hits the big deposits that create seizures, say, or just sickness of all kinds, or severe chronic fatigue, or whatever it is, because it's feeding viruses. As more metal comes in, the deposits get bigger and they swell. Sometimes they'll get so big that neurons start to short circuit. So as your neurons, right, in your brain, all these neurons, I'm going to draw a few neurons right here. You guys okay with that? If you're not caught up to what I'm doing, you just rolled in here. These are big, heavy metal deposits right here, these three deposits, inside of our brain, okay? More metal coming in is making them bigger. Your neurons, which are these, I'm going to string them together. You're okay with that? Stringing these neurons together, just for fun. Okay? What happens is these deposits get so big, they impede the neuron. So now, they're walking themselves into the neurons. As they're walking themselves into the neurons, your memory's going. As they're walking themselves into the neurons, you're getting Parkinson's. As they're walking into these neurons, you're struggling with all kinds of neurological symptoms. And that's what happens. More metal goes in, the metal deposits get bigger, and then they rub against neurons. And they start to dominate. And then the next part happens right there. The next part is the neurons get corroded. The metal corrodes, and the metal corrodes, and then it outgasses, and deposits come off of it, and that's next. I'll give you that quick rundown, because we got stuff to do. So here's your neurons right here. Bunch of neurons. Right? There they are. We're stringing them all together. There they are. All that tissue. Okay? And then there's the metal. Here it is. A big old metal deposit. See it right here? A big old metal deposit right here. It's growing bigger and bigger. You got more metal coming in left and right from various places. More metal's coming in. The deposit's getting bigger and bigger. And then what happens is that it pushes against these neurons. But worse, the metal starts to corrode. We're on these really high-fat diets. The high fat corrodes the metal more. We're getting more metal coming in, and then it starts to leach. It's like a leach field. These are your neurons here, and they start to become dirty. Your brain gets filthy inside because the metal starts to leach, and it starts to leach, outgas, and start to corrode. And as that metal's corroding, it's entering your neurons. See those beautiful blue neurons right there? There you go. Look at that. See? Those neurons are getting contaminated, right? There you are. And when that happens, you wake up one morning and you have a seizure or your first great panic attack or something else. You wake up and you just don't know who you are for a moment. It happens every time for so many people. All the time for a lot of people out there. People say to me often, like, why bother getting metals out? What does it matter? It matters. Because it's something that gets in our way and people don't realize it and they suffer from it and they have to live with those metals and it is no fun. So I think I'll look at one more little thing for you guys. Old metals versus new metals. This is an important place to talk about for a moment. Heavy metals that we inherit have age to them. Like I said, they're old. They go back 2,000, 3,000 years. And depending on what part of the world someone's bloodline stems from, older heavy metals also have a higher oxidative rate. So that's what happens. You see, someone may have similar amounts of metals in them than someone else. But the oxidative rate is faster in that one person, making them sicker and giving them symptoms and sending them downhill. The other person has a slower oxidative rate where the metals are leaching slower. So this person, they're leaching faster. This person, they're leaching slower. That also determines so many different symptoms when and how. An oxidative countdown occurred as the metals aged. Those metals became highly unstable when they entered and sat inside human bodies where metals were exposed for years and years and years going down our bloodline. So what happens is the older the metals are, the more we really suffer, and so many people are suffering in such great ways. Awful great ways. All right. So I want to start working on some other stuff too. Let's get into the intestinal tract for a couple of minutes. Okay? We inhale metals, we eat metals, we breathe in metals, which is inhaling them. We get metals in our skin, we get metals in our bloodstream every single day, and metals circulate throughout our bloodstream every single day, and then they find a home. So when we eat toxic heavy metals, the metals go down into our stomach, they go down into our intestinal tract, and they stay there. They cling to the walls of the intestinal tract. They go up the highway that goes to the liver, the hepatic portal highway. The metals travel into the liver. The liver tries to filter the metals out, and then the metals get trapped inside the liver. When the metals get trapped inside the liver, they become food for, you know what? The bugs. The bugs. The bugs. As the metals are sitting inside the liver, so are bugs, and the bugs feed off of the metals, and next thing you know it, you got yourself some fatigue. You cannot explain. You don't understand the fatigue. You can't explain it. You don't know why you have it, but it's there. And it's just not a matter of you overworking or over-exercising or just even being stressed out. Fatigue that shouldn't be there sticks around because bugs inside the liver will feed off of those metals, and that will happen. Now, people get tested for metals now. It's something that's common since there's been so much awareness with the medical medium books all these years and information. So they're getting tested for metals. And a lot of doctors are like, well, you don't have really any metals in here. But what people don't realize is they're in the organs. Spleen, pancreas, liver, inside the stomach tissue, the stomach walls, intestinal tract walls. They're in the heart. Metals get into the heart muscle and they hide in there. They're in lung tissue. Metals are in the brain. Metals are in the spinal cord. Metals are in the central nervous system, and they sit in there. So when you test for metals, you don't really test that high in metal. Some people do because they're having recent exposures. The only way to find metals through testing and blood testing is a recent exposure that's happening on a daily or weekly basis. And when there's a recent exposure, then the blood you can find metals inside the blood. If there isn't a recent exposure of a high enough magnitude of enough, then it'll just sit deep inside the organs. I've been putting this information out there for decades. Finally, the blood labs are starting to admit this, that metals are sitting inside organs and they may not be detectable in the bloodstream, thanks to Info. Okay, so let's talk about getting the metals out. I'm going to make a heavy metal detox smoothie, one that I really love. And you can get metals out in different ways. I talk about it in the books, and I had all the way since the beginning that getting 3 out of the 5 ingredients is critical. 3 out of the 5. So you got cilantro right here. That's one of the ingredients right there. You got wild blueberries. That's another one right there. You got Atlantic dulse. It's another one right there. You got spirulina. You got barley grass. Those are 2 more right there. 5 will give you the best results. 5 ingredients will give you the best results. But it's important to try to at least get 3 if you can. Now, a lot of people talk about chlorella, and they're like, well, what about that? Well, that drops the metal. It doesn't hold on to it. No one even knew it even did anything with metal until I started talking about over the years that it drops metal. It drops it. And a lot of people don't realize that. Another thing is zeolites cannot get metal out of the brain. Keep this as a feather in your cap. Because this is critical, because it's important to know that zeolites will never get toxic heavy metals or any metal out of the brain. It's not possible. It's basically a clay. It can't get metals out of organs either because it can't enter an organ. There's no zeolite variety. There's no zeolite brand out right now There's no type of zeolite that can remove a metal out of an organ or the brain. So when you're using zeolites, kiss your money goodbye. Kiss it goodbye. Very important to know. Because what people don't realize is if clay can enter your bloodstream, on any level, if zeolite can enter your bloodstream on any level, you'll just have a stroke and a heart attack. You'll have a blood clot, an aneurysm, blood clot, or some kind of blood blockage, blood vessel blockage, because you just can't pump that stuff into your bloodstream and have it swim around. It'll get caught up somewhere and you'll die or have a problem. So it never enters into your bloodstream. It can't. Never has for anyone and never will. Very important to understand. A couple little topics I wanted to cover because we're talking about heavy metal detox. And I wouldn't recommend a zeolite these days because there's cross-contamination of zeolites that aren't edible. So what happens is with manufacturing zeolite products, it's intermixed, not on purpose, but by accident with zeolites that are not edible. That's a problem all on its own. That creates dehydration. One of the reasons why I don't like zeolites is because of dehydration issues. You lose critical electrolytes, you get dehydrated. Happens like that with all zeolites, especially the ones that are out there now. So these are some of the things that I'm talking about that are really important, and that's one of them. Another one right here, okay? Very important. You can't get metals out with charcoal. You can't get metals out of your bloodstream. You can't get metals out of your organs with charcoal. It is impossible. It will not happen. It does not happen. Zeolite and charcoal don't work. And zeolite is just something that goes into your stomach, then down your duodenum, then into your intestinal tract, and then out the door. That's all it does. It can't enter the hepatic portal highway. It can't cross the blood-brain barrier. It can't do any of that. It's impossible. If it did, the person would die and have a stroke. Charcoal goes in the intestinal tract and then goes out. It's not an organ or brain toxic metal removal system. So that's important too to understand. I'm trying to read comments at the same time, you guys. So now you'll hear out there somebody that will try this, try that will do it, and it doesn't. So what I like something with a track record, something that has helped so many people and turned around autism. Yes, autism. Children that couldn't speak could now speak. Turned around all kinds of different issues in people. Got their lives back in so many different ways, got them out of wheelchairs, got them talking again, got them walking again. Something with a powerful track record. Got their skin better, got rid of the eczema, got rid of the psoriasis, got rid of all of that. That's what I'm talking about. That matters, and that's what we want. Not something I'm throwing together, creating some horse shit for somebody to actually take or whatever, and you don't know because there's no track record. But the medical medium, heavy metal detox, has the track record for years and years and years and has saved lives. And you guys know, many of you guys have done it, has saved lives. All right, so I'm going to go into this a little bit. I'm going to hit the wild blueberry for a little bit. You guys got a couple of minutes on this? Try to keep it as interesting as possible. Right there, okay? The Canadian wild blueberry. Or the Maine wild blueberry, right? And this right here is the ultimate to use in your heavy metal detox. It's this. It's the best one to use. Now, if you can't get a hold of this one here, which is the wild blueberry, North America, if you can't get a hold of it, I always say you can do blackberries, but blackberries can only remove a little bit of metal, little bit from the intestinal tract. And the blackberries don't even have to be wild. Now, all wild berries out there, like wild raspberries, wild bilberry, has a little bit, some capabilities of removing a little bit of toxic heavy metals out of the intestinal tract, but can't remove them out of the brain, can't remove them out of the liver, can't remove them deep out of the organs. And that's the difference. Now, if you don't have access to the wild blueberry, Angustifolium, that one, if you don't have access to those wild blueberries, and you got to use another blueberry, or another different kind of berry, or a wild blueberry or something like that, because there are wild blueberries out there. And the wild blueberry, let's go into it a little bit, okay? European blueberry is not this variety of wild blueberry. It's the bilberry. It's really important to know. Now, there are bilberries in the US, there's bilberries in Canada, there's bilberries in Maine, there's bilberries out there. And I have access to bilberry, but I've never put bilberry in here. So I want people to know this. This is important because I think what happened is over time, because there wasn't access to this variety of wild blueberry, I think people are just putting any wild berry they can find in there. And I got respect for that because guess what? That's good. That's good. Put in any wild berry you can get in there. I like the blackberries, and if you can get a wild blackberry, then that is the ultimate. It's not going to do what the wild blueberry does. Angustifolium is not going to do what that does. But it's important to know because what happens out there is then people are just like, whoa, I'm doing it up. Like I'm doing it exactly the way it should be. And what they don't realize, if the bilberry's in here, it's not exactly the way it should be, but still, sure. If that's all you got, then do it. But you're really running on 4 ingredients if you don't have the wild blueberry. If you're using a bilberry, then your heavy metal detox is only running on 4 ingredients, not 5. That's all. And I always say 3 out of the 5. Get 3 out of the 5. So if you're somebody and you're doing the heavy metal detox somewhere, anywhere in the world, and you're putting a raspberry in there, the wild raspberry, or you're putting a wild bilberry in there, or you're putting a wild blackberry in there, that's good. It's got a lot of nutrients for other reasons. It's got healing properties for other things, but it doesn't remove the metals deep within the organs and deep within the brain and deep where it needs to be. So you're running really 4 out of 5. And if you're somebody that only has cilantro, you call it coriander, you got cilantro, and then you got dulse, and then you got, say, spirulina, that's 3. It's still going to help. But to get maximum pull, you want the 5. The 5. You need the cilantro. You need the angustifolium, the wild blueberry. I know in Europe they'll call it European blueberry. That's bilberry. And I know there are wild blueberries, but they're very hard to get. They're very hard to get in Europe. You can't get them. They're very hard to find, and you can't get them. So everybody's relying on the bilberry out there. And that's fine. You can put bilberry in there. You can definitely put bilberry, you can put blackberry in there, you can put a huckleberry in there. You can put those in there, but you're not at the maximum pull to actually get the metals deep out of the organs, right? You're running 4 out of 5 ingredients. And look, companies have also tried to market the bilberry so much so, they say that the North American, wild blueberry, they say that the wild blueberry from Canada is cultivated. There's companies out there now so hungry and so money hungry to hop on the heavy metal detox ride that they'll actually say that the wild blueberry, angustifolium, in the United States or in Canada is actually cultivated. That is not true. This is a wild food and it's not cultivated. That's an important thing I want to clear up because I've seen that out there. And the wild blueberry has more antioxidants than the bilberry. So I want to cover that for a minute. That's really important here, okay? So there are some rumors out there being spread because that's how it is. Because people want to sell the crap out of their bilberry. I get it. Everybody's trying to survive out there. I get it. But they want to sell the crap out of their bilberry so much so that they will say that the bilberry is higher in antioxidants than the wild blueberry, the angustifolium, in Canada, in the US, and they're wrong. They're wrong. They are dead wrong. This wild blueberry right here, the angustifolium, has higher antioxidants than any bilberry. Fact. But you see, they'll spin it. Everybody spins whatever they want to do. That's what they do. They spin it all. Oh, our bilberries are higher than the wild blueberry. No, it's not. It may be higher than a cultivated blueberry, like a regular cultivated blueberry. It may be higher than that. They grow a lot of cultivated blueberries in Poland. Maybe it's higher than that one. Maybe it's higher than another one that's cultivated, but not the angustifolium, not the wild food that's sitting in front of me. So I want to clear some of these things up. It's okay if you're running 4 out of 5. It's okay if you're running 3 out of 5. And that's all you got. You only got some barley grass juice powder, or you only got some spirulina and some cilantro and maybe some dulse. And that's the 3 you run because that's all you got. Then make that smoothie or make that smoothie bowl with those 3 things. Okay, you guys? You can do that. But ideally, if it comes your way someday or you're somewhere and you have it and you can do all 5, that takes it to another level. That's when it's at maximum right there. Cilantro, spirulina, barley grass juice powder, dulse, wild blueberries. Like wild blueberries. Not what they call wild blueberry, a bilberry. No, not that. Wild blueberries. Bilberries grow differently than a wild blueberry. Bilberries grow in small amounts, very spread out. So I question a lot of bilberry products out there because you can't harvest enough of it to meet a demand, which means it's questionable to what else is in there. Anyway, okay, we covered a little bit of that. Let's start doing this. If you need to make just a smoothie bowl and you just want a bunch of fruit chopped up in a bowl, make sure if you want it the heavy metal detox, you put in the 5 ingredients. You put a little bit of dulse. You got your wild blueberry. You got your cilantro, right? You got your spirulina, barley grass cheese powder, and you put it and you make a smoothie bowl. You know what I do a lot? I'll tell you right now, you guys. You know what I do a lot? I cut open a melon, crack the melon open, and I put spirulina right in the melon. I put barley grass right in the melon. I put some dulse liquid right in the melon, right? And I put some wild blueberries right in the melon. And I chop up some cilantro. And I put it right in the melon. And I have basically a melon smoothie bowl, basically. And that's what I do. Because I'm just trying to get the 5 ingredients. That's the key, right? That's the main key. I'm just trying to get that in me. All right, but we're making the smoothie. Let's get roughly 2 cups of the wild blueberries in here, okay? You can find real wild blueberries in Europe. Real wild ones, but it's not bilberry. They're just calling bilberry the wild blueberry. That's what they're doing. They're calling the bilberry the wild blueberry. It's not the wild blueberry. You see how it works? I just want to make sure that that's all clear information. And then the sellers are doing that and pushing that to make money, right? The sellers of bilberry products are pushing it as the wild blueberry. They're actually saying it's a wild blueberry, and then you see the little fine print, bilberry. Our wild blueberries are so good out here. They're so great. You should see them. They're actually handpicked by people foraging in the woods. And then right there, you'll see a little bit. They're calling it wild blueberry, and then you'll see a little bit in the little spot there, bilberry. Like, yeah, because you're picking bilberries. But you know, because so many people, millions of people drink the heavy metal detox around the world, you know that there's a market for it. I understand. I'm not calling people out. I'm just saying it like it is of what's happening. Here's cilantro right here. I like cilantro by itself. I like it on everything and anything. I use it as a leafy green. That's how I love cilantro, as a leafy green. But it's great to have it. Here's another thing to run by you really quick, okay? If you get the 5 ingredients during the course of the same day, the medical medium heavy metal detox means you try to get the 5 ingredients on the same day. Same day. That's what you do. You get the cilantro in your salad. You get the wild blueberry in your breakfast. You get your spirulina in a papaya. Sprinkle it on a papaya. Whatever it is, you get the 5 on the same day. It doesn't have to be at the same time. Keep that in mind. And you get the metals out. You just have to get them in on the same day. See how it goes? I've always said that all the way since the beginning. Bilberry is still good for you, and you can still use them to get some small amount of metal out of your intestinal tract. It won't get it out of the brain, it won't get it out of the organs, but the bilberry will get a small amount out of the intestinal tract, and so will a wild raspberry, and so will a wild blackberry, and so will some huckleberry, whatever it is that you got, right? It will take a little bit out of the intestinal tract, but it can't go further than that, and it doesn't take a lot out of the intestinal tract, and the binder, the heavy binder quality is not there, so that's not happening too. So the wild blueberry, right, the angustifolium is the heavy binder. All right, so I got cilantro in there, I got the wild blueberry in there. Let's pop in a couple of bananas in there too. Hello, bananas. I'm very happy to see you. Pop a couple of bananas in there. Nice. Nice. You guys, it's great to be here. I wanted to run this by people. I want them to be inspired to get metals out of their body because it is important to do so. All right, let's get some spirulina in here. A little bit. Okay. I'll try not to make a mess, but I do make a mess all the time in the kitchen. Got some barley grass juice powder. Let's go into that next. Barley grass is not barley grass juice powder. Chlorella is not spirulina. It's not. Two different things. Two different things. Okay? A lot of people will they'll see barley grass juice powder, but they miss the juice. The juice. So they do barley grass powder, scratchy. It doesn't work. It doesn't have that play. It doesn't bind on to the others. It doesn't act as a binder. It doesn't remove anything. It can't be barley grass. It has to be barley grass juice powder. So we threw that in there. All right, let's crack open a delicious orange. A little bit in there. If you want to use coconut water, you can put coconut water in there too. You can do that. Putting a little bit of orange in there. If you want to do coconut water, a little bit in there. Just like that. All right. What am I missing? Have you guys been paying attention? Because I'm missing something. I am missing something indeed. You could put a little strip of dulse. Kelp is not going to do it. Kelp is not going to do it. Sea moss is not going to do it. I'm sorry, but it's not. I know everybody wants to create something. Because there's a sea moss market, it's like, let's use it for metals. Well, sorry, but it doesn't get the metals out. There's a bilberry market, but sorry, but it doesn't get the metals out the way it should. I get it. And there's a market for stuff. I know everybody's about marketing. Everybody's about selling crap. It's everywhere now. Every single person seems to be selling something. I mean, I turned on social. Somebody was selling a foot balm. And I was asking SOC, is that going to work? And SOC is like, no. They're selling a foot balm. All right, putting in some dulse liquid there. All right, blend it up. Let's make it happen. All right, guys. I'm actually pretty psyched for this. Here we go. You can always sing a little song when you're doing it too. I'm gonna get my medals out. Choose Choose whatever song or hymn you like. I like to pulverize it good. I like to give it a good pulverizing. Let's click this off. Let's move this over. All right, thank you for hanging out there for that. I think I need a glass. Boom. And right there. There we are. Nice. Ooh. Good camera work. Whoa. I can pour a little bit more to the top. There we are. And that is the heavy metal detox smoothie version. You can make a smoothie bowl. You can just eat these 5 ingredients throughout the course of the day. Just make sure it's on the same day. That bit of information is powerful. Powerful. It's empowering. I'm excited about this because I am hungry. Now, there's this congealing thing that happens, and I talked about this the other day. The angustifolium, that wild blueberry, congeals the most. Has the highest congealing factor that I've been able to find out there. And that's part of the whole binding part. So what the wild blueberry does, it helps to get the metals out of organs, but it also has an intense binding quality for the intestinal tract. Something sodium bicarbonate cannot do, something chlorella cannot do, something zeolite cannot do, something bentonite clay cannot do, something charcoal cannot do. It can't do. No can do. No can do. But this is that incredible and that powerful, right? So good. Hands down, delicious. And what I like to do is when I'm consuming the heavy metal detox, I'm not consuming any heavy metals, meaning I'm not out there purposely consuming heavy metals. But when I consume the heavy metal detox, what a feeling when you're getting it in you every day. Keep a journal, mark it down. Keep a journal and mark it down. That's what I do. I did one today. I did one another day. I did another one. I did another one. Keep a journal and mark it down. And then be like, well, I did 7. I did 8 of them this month. I did 10 of them this month. And try to get that to a point where you're like doing every day for the month. And a lot of people, they do it once a week. They do it every 3 days. They do it once in a while. But try to keep track so you know you're doing it enough. You're doing it for a few days a week, and then you're doing it for 4 days a week. Then you move it to 5 days a week, and you're getting an average, and you journal it, and you're like, whoa, I had 20 heavy metal detoxes this month. It's a great way to do it. So good. All right, guys. Just want to touch base. Say hi to everybody. You do it daily? Gina? Incredible. Tanya, 4 years in March. Amazing. A.M. Every day for me. Yum. Incredible. Over there on YouTube, you guys are doing it. Do you have to drink the whole thing? Drink what you can. Baby step it. Drink a little bit. Make a smaller one if you really have to. It's okay. Oh, God, I love that. As a flavor, it can't be beat. Okay, guys. Love you guys. You do it every day? Great. Fantastic. You guys know I'm proud of you. Incredible. If you want to soak up and absorb that heavy metal information, watch this video from the start. You guys sign up to my Telegram or, subscribe to my Telegram if you can. All right. And sign up to my newsletter if you can so you know what's going on. And I am working on trying to do a book signing. If you guys want to bring your old books, I'm working on it. I don't know when it is yet. I'm going to try to find information. I'm trying to find a place for it that that could be a good hub. So if you guys want to come out, and I'm not going to travel around the world right now. I can't do that, but I'm going to try to find one location. And if you guys want to come, once I have dates and stuff like that, you bring your old books and I will sign them. I've never done an official book signing ever in 10 years. So it would be my first book signing. I remember when Medical Medium Book 1 came out, and my publisher was like, when are you doing a book signing? I was like, too busy writing the next book. Can't do it. Next book came out. My publisher said, when are you doing a book signing? Because everybody does book signings. Authors do book signings. I'm like, can't do it. Too much going on. I can't do it. Anna says, I've been drinking the HMDS for almost 9 years. There's a birthmark that is disappearing because of drinking it. Birthmarks are because of toxic heavy metals. It's true. Yep. Info, and I'm so thankful that you're actually drinking. 9 years. 9 years. It's incredible. Pat, you got all the books? Incredible. Thank you. White Springs, you want me to come to Norway? I can't get to Norway right now. I can't. Can't get to Norway. I wish I can. But I'm trying to figure it out. So if you guys want to come out sometime, when I get a date, I will do a book signing, say hi. Anyway, you guys. All right. I will see you next time. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Give me a like or whatever you call it. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs up and a like anyway. I'm keeping out the middle finger. Keeping out the middle finger today. You don't have to give me a middle finger. Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. Anyway.